He didn't just lose money, he lost a $150 million empire. And the truth behind Nicolas Cage's downfall is so unbelievable, Hollywood still refuses to talk about it. There are Hollywood stars, and then there is Nicolas Cage, a legend, an icon, a man whose career has been as wild as the characters he plays. He once had everything: fame, prestige, an Oscar, massive franchises, and a personal fortune so huge that he could buy nearly anything he wanted. And he did. Exotic animals, private islands, rare tombs, a castle in Europe, a dinosaur skull. Nicolas Cage wasn't just rich, he lived like a real-life king. But then, the unthinkable happened. The $150 million empire collapsed. Gone. Burned by debt, mismanagement, overspending, and a financial storm so massive that it forced one of Hollywood's highest-paid actors to take any movie role he could find just to survive. Today, we uncover the shocking truth behind Nicolas Cage's financial downfall and how he fought his way back one movie at a time. Nicolas Cage's rise to wealth wasn't luck, he earned it. Throughout the late 90s and early 2000s, he became one of the highest paid actors in the world. Films like Face Off, National Treasure, Gone in 60 Seconds, and Con Air turned him into a global phenomenon. At his peak, Cage was earning over $20 million per movie. Money poured in faster than he could spend it, and that was exactly the problem. But what he didn't know was that the clock on his fortune was already ticking. As his income skyrocketed, so did his lifestyle. Nicolas Cage didn't live like other celebrities. He lived like royalty from another era, and he spent money as if it would never run out. But it was more than impulse buying. For Cage, spending was emotional, almost artistic. He bought things that made him feel alive. And this was the exact moment his financial downfall quietly began long before anyone realized it. At one point, Cage owned 15 luxurious properties across the world. Not just mansions, but jaw-dropping estates that drained millions in upkeep every year. He purchased 2 European castles that required constant renovations. He bought a haunted house in New Orleans, famous for its dark history. He even owned a sprawling estate in California that included a customized personal theater, rare artifacts, and expensive collectibles. Every time he bought another property, real estate experts warned him, these homes don't generate income, they drain it. But Cage wasn't thinking long term. He was living in the moment, chasing experiences rather than investments. And then came the bizarre purchases, the ones that made headlines and eventually became symbols of his downfall. Nicolas Cage bought a $276,000 dinosaur skull and later had to return it to the Mongolian government when it was discovered to be stolen. He purchased 2 private islands in the Bahamas, spending millions more just to maintain them. He bought a fleet of rare cars, Lamborghinis, Rolls-Royces, Bentleys, and unique models worth small fortunes. He invested in comic books so rare that he insured the collection for over $1 million. And yes, he famously bought a 9-foot-tall pyramid-shaped tomb in New Orleans just because he wanted a dramatic place to be buried. But while the world mocked him, something far darker was happening behind the scenes. Because the purchase that made headlines wasn't the one that destroyed his empire, it was something completely hidden. But behind the scenes, his finances were collapsing. The turning point came when the IRS stepped in. After years of chaotic spending and poor accounting, Nicolas Cage found himself facing massive debt, including millions in unpaid taxes. The government seized properties, they froze accounts, they demanded repayment immediately. At this moment, the truth came out. Nicolas Cage was almost broke, and what came next was the moment his entire empire crumbled. The man who once earned $40 million a year could barely keep up with his expenses. But what really happened? Was it just reckless spending, or was there something deeper? To understand Cage's downfall, you have to understand the silent force behind it: financial mismanagement. Cage claimed that his longtime business manager failed to properly oversee his finances, ignoring warnings, neglecting bills, and letting debt quietly grow behind the scenes. His manager claimed the opposite, that Cage wouldn't listen, wouldn't slow down, and wouldn't stop buying. The truth, as always, is somewhere in the middle. Cage spent recklessly, yes, but he also trusted people who didn't protect him. When the IRS hit him with over $6 million in tax debt, Cage didn't have enough liquid cash to pay it. His assets were tied up in properties, collectibles, and luxury items that quickly lost value. When he tried to sell them, the market didn't want them. His empire wasn't just unstable, it was collapsing. What followed was one of the most painful falls in Hollywood history. Nicolas Cage went from headlining blockbuster movies to taking any script that came his way: thriller, horror, low-budget action, or even strange experimental films. Agents who once fought to work with him now questioned his choices. Fans wondered if he was losing his mind. Critics mocked him for accepting bad movies. But behind every strange role was the same reason: he was clawing his way out of debt. But no one expected what happened next, not even Cage. While many actors would have quit, disappeared, or declared bankruptcy, Nicolas Cage did something extraordinary he refused to give up. He worked non-stop. He filmed multiple movies a year, sometimes back-to-back, sometimes in remote locations, sometimes in genres he'd never touched before. Every paycheck went straight into debts, taxes, and rebuilding his life. For over a decade, Cage hustled harder than any A-list actor. Not for fame, not for awards, but for survival. Amazingly, it worked. Slowly, the mountain of debt shrank. Piece by piece, he paid off the IRS. He settled lawsuits. He sold unnecessary properties. And along the way, something unexpected happened. Nicolas Cage rediscovered his passion for acting. If you're still here, make sure you subscribe, because the twist that finally saved his entire life is coming next. In the middle of the chaos, Cage began choosing roles not just for money, but for challenge. Some of those roles earned him massive respect. Films like Mandy, Pig, and The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent reminded the world of something they had forgotten. Nicolas Cage isn't just a celebrity. He's one of the most fearless actors of his generation. But the road to rebuilding wasn't just professional, it was personal. Cage admitted in interviews that during his peak, he felt lost. The wealth, the materialism, the non-stop buying, it wasn't filling the void. He used shopping as a coping mechanism. When life felt overwhelming, he bought something. When stress hit, he acquired something rare. It was a cycle that eventually consumed him. But losing everything forced him to confront his reality, forced him to mature, forced him to rebuild himself from the inside out. And this is where Nicolas Cage's story becomes extraordinary. Because unlike many celebrities who go broke and never recover, Cage actually fought his way back. His debts are now paid. His career is respected again. And while he doesn't live the extreme lifestyle he once did, he lives comfortably on his own terms with newfound clarity. But why does his story feel so shocking? Because it exposes a truth most people never think about. Being rich doesn't make you safe. Not even close. You can have fame, talent, millions, and still lose everything to poor decisions, bad advice, and emotional spending. Nicolas Cage is living proof that wealth without discipline is temporary, fame without management is fragile, and success without awareness can disappear overnight. Yet his story isn't just about loss, it's about resilience. Because what Cage did next transformed him from a cautionary tale into a comeback icon. And this final twist is the part Hollywood never tells you. He rebuilt not just his finances, but his reputation. He accepted that he made mistakes. He stopped blaming others. He learned to live within his means. And he worked harder than ever. What makes his comeback so compelling is that it wasn't glamorous. There were no big headlines praising him, no viral moments declaring his victory. It was a quiet, steady climb built on discipline, accountability, and humility. While other actors took long breaks and enjoyed the spotlight, Cage was grinding on small sets in foreign countries, filming 3, 4, sometimes 5 movies in a year. Behind every paycheck was another step toward financial freedom. And eventually, freedom came. Today, Nicolas Cage stands in a rare position. A man who once had it all, lost it all, and earned it all back again. Not through luck, not through handouts, but through grit. Most people remember the castles, the islands, the dinosaur skulls. But what they should remember is the work. Because the shocking truth isn't that Nicolas Cage lost $150 million. The shocking truth is that he survived it. Nicolas Cage's story isn't just a Hollywood cautionary tale, it's a powerful reminder that success can disappear faster than it arrives. Money can vanish, fame can fade, and mistakes can destroy even the strongest careers. But what defines you is not the fall, it's the fight after the fall. Nicolas Cage didn't collapse under pressure, he didn't hide, he didn't quit. He stood up, took responsibility, and rebuilt piece by piece until he reclaimed his life. His journey proves one thing: setbacks don't define you, your response does. And sometimes, losing everything is what finally shows you what truly matters. This was fame and fortune where legends rise, fall, and fight their way back. Nicolas Cage's story proves that even the biggest losses can become the start of a new life. Subscribe, the next story will shock you even more.